Hi guys. So I just got a pen, so I'm ready to do some VOD reviews, and today I kind of wanted to talk about how SKT managed to drop a game in group stages, and it was their only game, and I kind of want to break apart how AHQ managed to do this. So I have watched this game, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the picks and bans. It's gonna be standard if you've seen my other VOD reviews, but if this is the first video of mine that you're watching, then welcome. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. So you see the Zaya and the Rakan band. This is really interesting because it kind of targets the fact that AHQ doesn't plan on playing Zyra or Rakan, since both of them are such powerful picks. Also, it reflects the idea that it SKT is able to use both of them very, very effectively. So there's a lot of respect in banning both of those. And then the Cho'Gath ban comes out as well, which is kind of standard. No need to discuss that. Anyway, SKT comes out with the Kalista ban, the Galio ban, and the Talia ban. Now, the Kalista ban is probably the most interesting, as it's not really the style of meta where Kalista is popular. And forgive me, I am not an expert on AHQ or any of the Chinese teams, but it's really important that Kalista is respected, as she has so much mobility, and the mobility and the damage that she's able to put out, as well as her effectiveness in being able to secure a major objective, is really important. So when I talk about this, I'm talking about Dragon and Baron and her execute given the rend. Hold on, let me see. Do I have... Oops. Okay, that's better. Nope, that didn't fix it. Alright, we're not going to worry about the pen, but it's working, so we're fine. Anyway, Galio. Galio has a lot of map pressure, be able to be flexed from mid, top, to even support. I think that happened once in Worlds. Maybe it was before Worlds, but no need to talk about Galio. And then Talia, very same concept, lots of map pressure. She's also a very high DPS mage, and kind of functions similarly to Cassiopeia. And we do know that Cassiopeia was nerfed right before Worlds started. So they're definitely putting a lot more pressure on this pick because she's able to abuse her lane. She's also able, after abusing her lane, she's able to roam very effectively. She also pushes very effectively, so she's able to get the push, and she's able to get the roam. And she's able to cut people off from major objectives or regular objectives, as the ultimate is very interesting. I mean, you can use it to cut off an entire portion of the map for the opponent to stop rotations, and stopping rotations is something that SKT is probably more afraid of, because if AHQ can force objectives using Talia, since you can force the enemy team to not be able to respond, say, to a tower by blocking it off with Talia's ultimate, for any champion that doesn't have a mobility, like any kind of mobility specifically, then you're talking about how useful Talia can be and how Talia can force those things. So SK2 showing a lot of respect, and doesn't really want to drop anything. Any other bans that may have been worthy? I mean, other than Janna, Lulu, then there's also Gragas. Any mid laners that were... I mean, Cassio's worth a ban. I would talk about Caitlyn, but most teams didn't really pick up Caitlyn until later in Worlds, as Caitlyn was viable the whole time, so there was no reason to really worry about Caitlyn, or there's no reason not to worry about Caitlyn, as Caitlyn is usable, and actually you would expect Chinese teams to use Caitlyn. as Chinese teams, China's very very early game focused in their mid game. And actually, that's why they really like Sivir. Although Sivir is a little bit out of priority right now. Anyway, Janna got picked up. Janna's just going to be providing the ADC with a very steady laning phase. Then Kog'Maw is probably going to be a Kog'Maw, and this is probably going to be a protect the Kog'Maw comp. I watched this game, but it was like it was the day it came out, so it was while they were streaming it. So I don't remember everything very specifically. Anyway, SKT drops the Jarvan and the Lulu. The Lulu secures a bot lane with pressure. So Lulu offers a multitude of things. Anti-assassin, that's the most important. Because what this means is that your AD carry is able to function similarly to a tank, and take a lot of damage that they normally shouldn't be able to take. Lulu also has a lot of poke in lane, and can be very aggressive. She's also willing to push the lane. Then you're also looking at hard CC, as she is polymorph. And just a little bit of peel, and that's with the hard CC and her glitter lance. So Lulu is a very very strong pick and should never really be underestimated. AHQ decides to go ahead and lock in Kog'Maw, which is not surprising, and then they follow up with a Sejuani pick. So Sejuani is really strong because of the massive engage potential. So you're talking about engage, and she's a frontline tank. And I don't know if I had a patch notes in where I think it was either patch 719, or no, the Worlds was on 718. So it was either patch 718 or 717, because I believe the last patch notes that I did before I took a break was 716. So it was probably patch 717 where you saw Sejuani get buffed. And with the Sejuani buffs, you saw a lot of damage coming out from her, including the permafrost damage, where she freezes someone and then she can auto them for up to from 10 to 15 to 20% of their HP. So that provides Sedge with a lot of extra power, and also gives her power in the early game for ganks. It isn't a lot of power. It isn't going to beat this Jarvan. Jarvan's definitely going to win that 1v1, especially at level 2. But that's just because of the burst damage that he can put out very easily. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we see a little bit more of these team comps pan out. I did skip Jarvan, but don't worry. We'll get back to it. There's the Gragas. That's probably going to be locked in. All right. Yep. That's locked in. So now you're seeing these two are flex. And why they're flex is because both can go top lane, both can go jungle. And this makes it extremely difficult to read. I really wish I could have a clear background so I could write on this, but what I mean by this, what do I mean by this? I want that here. So when I say it's difficult to read, I mean it's difficult to figure out what SKT is going for. Because now SKT has finished their first rotation of picks, and they do not have a primary carry. And what do I mean by primary carry? I mean your damage potential. And Talia's off the board, Kallista's off the board, Chaya's off the board, and Kog'Maw's off the board. So there are quite a few picks available for SKT right now, which is why they're not very concerned. But it makes AHQ curious, because now SKT is going to pick one of their rotations and pick one of their primary carries in this rotation, and then AHQ will have to respond with their other primary carry and their top laner. specifically their mid laner and their top laner. Now, when SKT does opt into not choosing any primary carries in the first rotation, they're letting more primary carries be banned out by AHQ. So let's go ahead and look at what AHQ decides to ban, since they're going to be banning they're either going to pinch ADC or they're going to pinch mid lane, or maybe they'll take one from both. That one's a little less likely. So there goes the Twitch. Twitch being a very, very strong late game carry, and functions very well with a hard backline, and does play well into Kog'Maw. SKT ban out. They pinch top lane. They go ahead and take out the Gnar and the Renekton, because they don't want AHQ to have a top laner that's going to severely abuse one of these, and SKT is really not deciding right now probably which one's going to jungle, since they both have really great early game pressure. Jarvan's got a little bit faster of a clear time in the early game, I think, which gives him faster ganks, which may lead you to believe that Jarvan is a little bit stronger in the jungle, which may lead you to believe that Jarvan will be jungle this game. That's a little separate. Anyway, SKT go ahead and they lock in Varus. This is interesting. Why is this interesting to me? When SKT go ahead and they lock in Varus, they're saying, we're going to go ahead and take an ADC that has 575 range, that has pick potential, and has decent DPS on top of some burst. And then you have long range poke. So you're looking at a little bit of a siege kind of idea coming out from Varus, because remember he does have this 575 range, so he's a little bit more comfortable when he's auto attacking a turret. He feels a little bit safer. Then he has this pick potential with his R, and the R is going to lead into J4, or it's going to lead into Gragas. So you're gonna see how that can be really, really good in the mid game. Now, why do I think that Varus is a mistake? Varus has no mobility. That's the simplest reason why I don't like Varus here. Varus will provide for a strong laning phase against Kog'Maw, because he will have the Lulu, and the Varus Lulu is a very, very very good combo. Not the best combo, but very good. And when he considers taking this, they're not considering the fact, they're not giving Sejuani respect. Why is this important? If Sejuani has long range engage, which actually is equivalent to the Varus R, because you're talking about Sedge Q plus R, so you're talking about a little Sedge combo that could catch Varus out, and while Varus does have Lulu, if enough burst damage, or if even a decent amount of burst damage goes into Varus, he will die. And AHQ are probably less concerned about how much damage they need in order to kill Varus, because they already know what the top laner and the jungler are. So you know that Varus is getting from this is 100% of Varus's support. The only thing that would give Varus and make him more viable in this situation is in Orianna mid. And while that is a good idea right now, you probably want a more DPS heavy mid laner because you're playing into Shen Sejuani, and Orianna really isn't going to provide the tools necessary to catch out the Kog'Maw, since Kog'Maw is always going to be far in the back line. And AHQ make the very smart decision to ban out Syndra. So when they ban out Syndra, they go ahead and they say, okay, we have a Kog'Maw with a Janna, with a Shen, because there was no reason at all for SKT to pick Shen after they have this. They have top mid support. No reason to pick Shen. So when they ban Syndra, they're saying, we're going to pick Shen. We're going to have a Janna shield with a Shen shield on top of a Kog'Maw who's going to be in the back line, and you're never going to be able to kill him. I forget what their last pick was. What's their mid laner? Fizz. This secures Varus' death. This kills Varus. Or the mid laner. It doesn't have to be Varus. Like, I'm talking a lot about Varus as the primary carry. But if SKT were to choose a very strong DPS mid laner that could carry with this team right here, and Varus is kind of just there for extra pick potential, that would seem a lot smarter to me. So if we saw something like Cassiopeia here, it would make a lot more sense. But since even with Cassiopeia, Cassiopeia is also immobile, and AHQ is probably expecting that SKT may have wanted Cassiopeia when they saw these three, or not really when they saw those three, but when they saw the Varus pick, since they know SKT is going to need a lot more damage, and since Cassiopeia is immobile and since Varus is immobile, it actually lets AHQ go ahead and pick Fizz and actually be really comfortable with Fizz, because you're talking about Fizz diving onto immobile carries, meaning the carries that really can't stop him from killing them. And Lulu will have a E plus R, but that is not going to be enough if Fizz has a level 3 ult. And by level 3, I do not mean he's level 16. I mean Fizz has 3 stages of his ult. Fizz's ult scales with distance. So at a level 3 distance, since there's 3 stages of distance on Fizz's ult, a Fizz ult that follows a Sejuani ult will immediately, you're talking about killing Varus through Lulu R plus Lulu E, especially if Fizz has any gold. Well, I'm talking about a normal Fizz, not a 3-1 Fizz, not a 5-1 Fizz, maybe 1-1. 1-1, level 11, max range ult with a Sejuani ult. You're talking about nuking Varus. So SKT go ahead and they lock in Kassadin. And what's really interesting about that is, so they're saying that this is the only option left. Why is this the only option left? Because Fizz really can't... Fizz playing in the Cassio is pretty bad, but it's not the best. It's not the best for Cassio either, just because once Fizz gets damage, it starts to get into a very close matchup. And by once he gets damage, I mean probably just Amp Tome, Dark Seal, Doran's Ring, Boots, and his level 6 ultimate. But when you're talking about Kassadin's passive actually makes him take 15% reduced magic damage. Or don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's 15%. So this makes it extremely difficult for Fizz to bully the matchup, even though it's a melee matchup. And what this also does is it provides SKT with an avenue, or well, a pathway. I'm sorry for my interesting word choice. A pathway to kill Kog'Maw. Because let's look at SKT's team fight. You're talking about a Varus R, which if you ever get a Varus R in the Kog'Maw, which you shouldn't, a Varus R into a J4 ult, and this is when Kog'Maw doesn't have flash. You have to get Kog'Maw's flash, and then you have to kill him. Then you have to catch him a second time. So Kog'Maw has to get twice in order for this to work. You have to get Kog'Maw's flash, you have to Varus R, then you have to Jarvan combo onto him, and then you have to Gragas combo onto him. Or, actually, Gragas can deal with Fizz, so Gragas goes to Fizz, and then Kassadin will dive onto Kog'Maw. And Kassadin plus Varus plus J4 may be able to kill Kog'Maw through Shen shield, through Janna shield. But if you're talking about a level 9 Janna and a level 11 Shen, which is this is going to happen. That generally is the case when you have a top laner, level 11 supports around level 9, sometimes level 8. Once this happens, it is going to be extremely, extremely difficult to kill the Kog'Maw. Alright. So let's go ahead and do we get like a little picture where, okay, here we go. Let's talk about the team comps and let's figure out what they mean. So, okay, so they did opt for the Jarvan top lane. And why they may have opted for the Jarvan top lane is because the Gragas E flash combo is very strong, and is much easier to hit than, say, the J4 E EQ flash combo. That is much different. And while the J4... And when J4 uses EQ flash, right, he doesn't actually get any damage from his E or Q, because you're flashing onto your opponent in order to secure the knockup. Whereas Gragas will get the knockup, and he'll get the damage, and he'll be able to put out his other damage with his W and his Q. Sorry. Drink more water. Okay, so now that that's sorted, let's go lane by lane, and then let's talk about the jungle. So, okay, we're not going to talk about the jungle yet. We'll go lane by lane. So, top lane, I think Shen wins from levels 1 to 4. Shen is greater than J4 from about levels 1 to 4. And then Jarvan starts winning the matchup pretty heavily when he gets a couple points in Q. Jarvan actually may have a better level... No, Jarvan doesn't have a better level 1. But Shen's level 2 is really good. Shen's level 2 is actually probably his strongest point in this matchup. Because he can farm for free and pressure J4, but not take any damage. So he can actually make J4 miss CS. So once J4 hits level 6, he's going to be able to push out the lane since he has more wave clear. So the push is in favor of SKT. So the top lane goes that way. And around at the 10-minute mark, you might see you actually might see even CS. Because Shen will develop a CS lead, is greater than J4 from levels 1 to 4. Or maybe it's just levels 1 to 3. Depending a little bit on runes. and then afterwards J4 will get the CS back, as he's able to pressure Shen a little bit more. And then once Shen tanks up to about level 11, so we're talking about really far towards the late game now. If they are in a side lane, which they probably will be in a side lane, you're talking about both of these are probably going to have teleport. Then Shen will actually have the push. Or, well, Shen won't have the push, but Shen will be able to ignore J4. And what I mean by that is J4 can't do enough damage to make Shen scared. So Shen can freely push the lane, and then J4 can respond with a push. And if J4 goes Titanic Hydra, then J4 will Q plus Titanic, the wave, while Shen just Qs and he's going to have a Sunfire cape. So it's just going to be a dead stalemate. And that's after level 11. Okay, now for the mid lane. So in the mid lane, Fizz wins a little bit in the really early, especially like the level 2. And if they both take Corrupting Potion, which is a very specific... I mean, if Kassadin goes Corrupting Potion and Fizz doesn't go Corrupting Potion, Kassadin will win the lane. And that's it. Nothing more. Now, if Fizz also goes Corrupting Potion or Kassadin doesn't go Corrupting Potion, then Fizz will have a little bit of a lead in the level, especially around level 2. As Fizz will have the W and the E, which will provide a decent amount of damage and will also provide lots of damage over time. And this is where you see Fizz with his duelist potential. Now, around the level 3 mark is when things start to get really interesting, because at this point, Kassadin has all 3 of his abilities, right? So he has his Q so he can cancel abilities, but that doesn't really work on Fizz, so that's useless, but it does damage, and Fizz can dodge it. But Kassadin has the W, which gives him its on-hit effect. And it also gives him a auto reset. So this is a really, really interesting matchup specifically because they both have on-hit effect and on-hit reset and auto reset, sorry. Sorry about the color. Is this a better color? Maybe. How about this? No, let's go back to yellow. Okay. So they both have auto reset. They both have an ability that can be dodged because Fizz's E can be dodged, mostly. And then his E where he holds it and has double the radius is much more difficult to dodge, but it can be dodged. Kassadin's Q can be dodged by Fizz's E. Kassadin's E can be dodged by Fizz's E, but if Kassadin throws Q and Fizz's E, Fizz will only dodge one of Kassadin's abilities with his E. Specifically because when Kassadin uses one, he will wait to use the other. And we know that Faker's smart enough to do this. As he's definitely one of the better mid laners in the world, if not the best. So we're going to see probably a CS lead in the favor of Kassadin at 10 minutes. Because if Kassadin plays the lane aggressively and gets his core, which is really just going towards Rod and the Corrupting Potion, Kassadin would only die if he got hit by a long-range Fizz ult. Because I do not believe Fizz is taking Ignite. No Ignite, right? Okay. So what this makes the matchup especially interesting because it's a very duel centric matchup, and what I mean by that is nobody can burst the other, even though both of them are bursty champions. Um, so you might see a small CS differential in the favor of Kassadin after he hits level 6, because he's going to be farming very freely after he hits level 6, and eventually Fizz can catch up on CS, but he should be down CS for a little while, especially around the level 6 to 9 mark, before Fizz gets level 5E, because that's when his E is going to be in low enough cooldown where he won't miss a lot of CS. Okay. Anyway, both of these offer great pick potential, and they also both offer great roaming potential. What's interesting about the mid lane and who's going to be roaming where is that Kassadin will want to roam bot, while Fizz wants to roam top. Is that backwards? I think that's backwards. No. Kassadin will roam top and Fizz rooms bot. This is preferred. It's not that Fizz cannot roam bot or roam top and that Kassadin cannot roam bot. It's that this is preferred. Because in the situation that Fizz and Kassadin both go bot, and then you also see both these junglers bot, I believe Fizz will win if it's before level 11. Because Kassadin's ult will be on too long of a cooldown for him to be too useful, and he's still going to be struggling with his mana pool. If he has a blue buff, it'll make things a little bit easier, but it won't make them the best. But Kassadin will want to roam top because he wants to make sure J4 can bully Shen for as long as possible. And if Gragas can get Shen's flash, then J4 can engage and Kassadin can follow up very easily. So what this means is they have a lot of pressure in this top lane, and they have the ability to shut Shen down. And while Shen never does get shut down, because I do understand that once Shen hits level 11, he is useful just by existing because of his R. But if you can shut down Shen before he hits level 11, and it even get as small of a lead as when Shen has 1 item, J4 has 1.5 items to 2, somewhere in between there, then J4 will have enough of a lead to bully Shen, and then J4 will have priority in the top lane. Because priority in the top lane will only exist until Shen is tanky enough to ignore J4. That's a very specific idea. Okay. Now, let's talk about the bottom lane, because we talked about how Kassadin might want to roam top. He doesn't really want to roam bot if Fizz is roaming bot, but it's possible for him to roam bot if Fizz, say, is going to roam top. However, Fizz is not incentivized to roam top very much because there's no point in getting a Shen fed. Getting Shen fed will do absolutely nothing. If you get Shen slightly ahead, say you get Shen 1 kill, and you would preferably do this between the level 4 to level 7 mark. If Shen gets a kill, then J4 might not ever be able to have lane priority. But before that point, he could have lane priority, and SKT could do something with the split. Okay, water. Oh, man. So as for the bottom lane is really interesting because Varus Lulu is going to poke a lot. while Kog'Maw is really just going to be trying to get CS. And Kog'Maw is just waiting to scale up into the point where he's able to out damage Varus 100% of the time. And that will happen because you're talking about Kog'Maw, who's a hyper carry, and you're talking about Varus, who's not a hyper carry. Because when I look at these two, and I think primary carry, I think Kassadin is the primary carry because, I mean, Varus is definitely falling under the category of secondary carry because he's not long range, and not extremely high DPS. Unlike someone like Vayne, who is not long range. She's not short range. I hate it when people say that. She has 550 range. It's more than a lot of champions. And she has extremely high DPS. Whereas she can fall under the umbrella of primary carry. So there is not a lot of damage coming out from here. However, you do see a little bit of extra damage coming out from these two, especially the J4, as J4 can provide a lot of damage. Okay, sorry. A lot of messages. Anyway. Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw and Janna really can't do anything in this lane. And what's particularly interesting about that is, let me draw a situation for you. Let's paint. Now this is gonna be pretty low quality, but okay. You have a blue turret, right? And then here's Kog'Maw, and here's Janna. That's a horrible color. Here's Janna. And I guess this will be Varus and Lulu. Okay? So if there's minions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, say they're batting here, and there's a wall here, and there's a wall here, and this is Tri-Bush right up here. And then here's the river, and there's another bush, and that leads out. And this is the lane. There's a bush. Okay. So what does this mean? This is a very horrible drawing, but what does this mean? Gragas can actually come through this way, and come behind the turret, and actually force them out of the turret using R, Cask, his explosive cask. Now, Janna is able to kind of counter this with her ultimate, but she can't actually prevent Kog'Maw from being flung towards the direction of the enemy. And then explosive cast, so here, let me cask into chain, into polymorph, into, if J4 roams down, J4 Cataclysm, and if Kassadin has a push in the mid lane, which at this time Kassadin can have a push in the mid lane because he's level 6 and because he's in that grace period where he can outduel Fizz if Fizz can't get a long range ult on him. So he can roam down too, and then this is first blood turret immediately after Kog'Maw dies. And Sejuani can try and stop this, but she doesn't have the tools in her kit to stop it. She has hard engage, she has her Q, and she has a little bit of AoE damage that's melee, but because she's melee, because she doesn't have anything that's highly disruptive, she can't actually stop this from happening. So this is a forced play, the 5-man bottom lane. Coming out from SKT. So that is the one spot in which Kog'Maw is actually going to be weak. And Kog'Maw, Janna is going to be weak. Okay, so we've talked about bot lane. And by the way, bot lane will push in the terms of SKT. So you're talking about this lane wins, this lane wins, this lane wins. So how does SKT lose this game? This lane gets outscaled. Fizz is a better assassin than Kassadin, because Kassadin really functions more as a melee mage. And Shen on top of this, on top of this, on top of this, you have a protect the Kog'Maw comp. And so Kog'Maw can't lose as long as he gets 2 items. He really can't lose unless if he gets 2 items. But if SKT is able to get the 5-man bot, they're able to win bottom lane using Gragas pressure. We'll talk about the junglers in a minute. And then they're able to get Kassadin fed. And J4 doesn't lose priority in top lane. Then SKT can win the game. So this is actually really interesting by SKT. Because normally when you think of SKT, you think SKT late game. When does SKT ever lose late game? SKT's late game versus AHQ's late game right now is in the favor of AHQ, because they do not have a tool to kill the Kog'Maw. They don't have split priority, and what I mean by split priority is that when J4 is splitting against Shen, J4 has pressure, and enough pressure where he's actually getting damage on the tower, and he's able to take towers while Shen isn't there. And this would only happen if Shen leaves the lane using Shen's ultimate or Shen's teleport, and leaves Jarvan in the lane alone. And that would also mean that SK Telecom cannot actually take any fights in the mid game. As they can only bait fights and they can force the Shen ultimate, and then they have to completely disengage. And how SKT might win this in the late game specifically is if maybe they have at least 1 Fire Dragon up. But really they aren't going to win unless they have 2 Fire and then maybe a Baron. So you're talking about SKT needs to have about a 2,500 gold lead at about 20 minutes, or no, earlier, 15 minutes, which is insane. Like this is a huge lead at 15 minutes. This is extremely difficult to get, and SKT's never been that team that you think about like they're gonna dominate the early game, they're gonna run over everybody, but SKT is not planning on winning this, because when you talk about the hyper late game, if SKT does get a Baron and they have a Fire Dragon, then they run a 1-3-1. And what I mean by this is Kassadin goes into a side lane, J4 goes into a side lane, and you put the other 3 in the mid lane. And why this is not good is because if it comes down to a really late game time, so you're talking about 35 minutes plus, a 1-3-1 is not viable, because a 1-3-1 in the late game is going to be countered by the 5-0 that AHQ can bring, and they can bring a 5-0s because they send Shen top to deal with J4, and then they hard engage mid on these 3. Using this ultimate, and Kog'Maw following up, and Janna following up. But Janna's just kind of there. She doesn't do anything. And she peels for Kog'Maw. And because they'll have so much damage on the Kog'Maw at the 35-minute mark, you're talking about a 4-item Kog'Maw. And then they also have the Shen ult, who can come into the mid lane. With this harding, if they hit the Sejuani ultimate, if they hit these 2 ultimates, they will kill someone. Someone will die. And if someone dies, AHQ wins the game, because they'll force mid and they'll end the game, because SKT does not have a carry split pusher. And what I mean by a carry split pusher is someone like Trundle, Fiora, Jace, someone who can kill towers, kill people, and fuck shit up, basically. On the most basic level is you have to have kill pressure and you have to have tower pressure. And because SKT doesn't have that, like if you leave Kassadin in a lane alone, it's gonna take him 30 plus seconds, maybe not in the ultra late game, to get a tower. And it might take Jarvan like at least 15 seconds, maybe 10, in the ultra late game to get a tower. Whereas like when you send 5 people in a tower, the tower is gone in 2 seconds. So if they kill these 3, or at least 2 of them, and they pummel mid at the 35-minute mark, they can end the game because you're talking about like a 60-second death timer. Okay, I've talked so much about these team compositions, so let's go ahead and get into the game. Any interesting starts? Kassadin actually started Dark Seal, and Fizz started Corrupting Potion. So what that means is that Fizz is actually going to be able to outtrade Kassadin, because Fizz will have more healing than Kassadin. But I think Kassadin is actually going to buy the Corrupting Potion and teleport back to lane. So this is only going to provide Fizz with a lead. A lead before first back. So Fizz is looking to trade a lot. As soon as he hits level 2. Level 2 to 3. He's even trying to get damage level 1. Faker went ahead and he took the he took Q first to try and get a little bit of damage off. He's also getting a lot of poke out that Westdoor is actually having to sustain, because Westdoor is actually trying to get the CS. And the level 1 is very heavily favored for Kassadin just because his Q is ranged and Fizz has no ranged abilities besides his ultimate. Okay. Anything other? Jarvan went Corrupting Potion because Jarvan actually wants to play very aggressive as well. Here, let me go ahead and put this full screen. Now that we're done talking about draft, we can be full screen. So J4 is looking to trade, and that makes a lot of sense because J4 wants to sustain till he hits that like level 4. Or even he got a level 3 advantage, and he wants to play aggressive. Shen went ahead and he started Doran Shield, so he's just going to be looking to play a little bit more passive. So we are going to see a CS lead in the favor of J4 is greater than Shen. And that CS lead may even go up to 15 at 10 minutes. So that's actually really good for SKT. Standard starts otherwise. Kog'Maw went and he started Doran Shield. That's not surprising. He really just wants to make sure he can get all the CS that he can, because he's not looking to play aggressive at all, whereas Bang and Wolf are going to want to poke. Okay, so jungle pathing. We saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're seeing a full clear from Sejuani, and a mostly. That's gonna be bad for Peanut. So we saw a very farm heavy jungle pass. And why is that interesting? Well, actually, in the beginning, I would have expected. Oh wait, I never talked about Gragas and Sejuani. Wow. Okay. Before we move on, Sejuani. She doesn't care about any lane. Sejuani will actually be probably focusing on the mid lane. She wants to make sure that Fizz doesn't get punished. Um, that Fizz can get maximized CS. And is capable of roaming. So you won't actually see any early pressure from Sejuani. She's actually only looking to counter gank. Why do I say this? Because Shen doesn't have priority over J4, and by priority I mean like very high kill pressure. And Fizz may have a little bit of kill pressure onto Kassadin, but it's not going to be a lot. So that's why she wants to just make sure that Fizz gets a lot of CS. Because if Fizz gets really good CS, then it's going to be very scary for Varus. And actually very scary for Kassadin too, because Kassadin wants to make sure that he's always just going to be ahead. And you're seeing a very, very, very big CS lead in the favor of Faker in the very beginning. And you saw, that's because Westor took an early back, and he went ahead and he bought a Dark Seal and a Control Ward. Okay, I don't want to get distracted though. So she, Sejuani Mountain will look to counter gank top if Shen is pushed past this river point. And she will also look to counter gank bottom as if bottom is past this river point. But really, she's only going to stick to the sidelines here, here, and even get... She even took Scuttle here. So she wants the pathing of Gragas all throughout this area because she just wants to keep Fizz safe. And keep her other lanes safe. But she can't do anything aggressive. Not aggressive. So, sorry, when we look at Gragas, we are going to see a lot of pressure coming out from him because bot lane has kill pressure, or will have kill pressure with Gragas's help. Mid lane, Peanut can heavily punish Westor if Westor goes ahead and uses his E while pushed. And that Westor, when he's pushed, may actually ask Mountain to hover his lane when he's pushed, so that he's able to secure CS easily. And use his E to even dodge spells as well as CS. Dodge spells, CS, trade, basically everything that you can do with Fizz's E. I would have also expected Peanut to probably take a more aggressive pathing, probably like... Honestly, I just expected him to path topside. I expected J4 to not push, because if J4 is not past river, then Gragas has kill pressure on Shen, and if J4 can get an early lead on Shen, then J4's priority stage, where he can deny Shen CS, as well as push hard, will start early, as well as end later. Just because when he has a lead, it will last a lot longer than normal. And then Gragas he's able to gank bottom lane if he wants to, but he's probably gonna wait till he's level 6. That will be according to a similar tower dive plan that I laid out for you with that horrible drawing before we started the game. But it's very interesting that Sejuani actually took a full clear, and Gragas went ahead and he did not take a full clear. And he's actually headed towards the mid lane. So he's not actually going towards his Krugs at all. So he's either going to put pressure in mid lane or try and get deep vision and get some knowledge on Sejuani. Sejuani just backed though, so it's pretty unfortunate for him. Or no, pretty fortunate for him, where he can get this vision and not even be contested by it. So, ooh, that's actually really good. Why is that good? Ah! Stop. This is really good. This means that he now knows that Sejuani did a full clear. He knows for a fact that Sejuani did every single one of her camps, and that Sejuani is actually ahead of him in golden XP. Not by much, but one camp of XP is a lot, especially when you're talking about the jungle. So it's Peanut's probably going to be thinking about what he needs to do now to make sure that he doesn't fall behind. We are seeing in the top lane, it's pushing towards J4, so J4 is going to have a small CS lead. But remember, it's pushing towards J4 because he's actually out of mana now. But once he uses his teleport to get back to lane, which will actually force Shen's teleport. Or wait, no, I don't think he can do that. Okay, so think about it this way. Shen has 2 teleports, while Huni only has 1. And because both mid laners have a teleport, the map pressure is in the favor of AHQ naturally. That is a natural advantage. So J4 can force Shen's teleport by, say, pushing, backing, and teleporting immediately, or he can try and push in. It would be recommended to try and push in as much as possible, hopefully into the tower, then back, and then be able to walk back, preferably with tier 1 boots, so he doesn't miss any CS. And that way he's able to hold on to his teleport so that he's able to move to another part of the map if he's needed. So right now he's actually probably saving mana. He's probably going to let the lane push into him. He's going to save a lot of that mana just by autoing creeps, and then expend that mana on pushing. Anyway, let's talk about the mid lane. Kassadin slowly starting to develop a lead. How much of a lead does he have? It's 15 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Fizz should get all of the CS, by the way. Or, well, maybe not this one. So Fizz is about down 6 CS. I don't know if he'll get down much more. Yeah, he missed that one. But he gets every other one. Okay. Shen actually made the decision that he was going to back and then teleport into lane, which will actually force Huni to back and accept the fact that he will be down CS. Or TP to lane and then not have TP. So that was an active decision by Ziv, which I didn't mention. I probably should have mentioned that Shen could have forced that himself, but that's going to be... It is a decision by Huni on how he wants to respond. Shen's actually playing really aggressive right here. He wants Huni to back, and he wants Huni to teleport back. Because if Huni has no teleport, then they can make really dumb aggressive plays with Fizz and Kog'Maw, and then Huni is not going to be able to respond. So we're seeing even CS in bot, we're seeing very small CS lead in mid, and then we're seeing what might be a CS lead for Shen right now. He might still be taking advantage of his early damage. Yeah, he will have a, well, it'll only be a CS lead of 1. A CS lead, for a CS lead to be important, it has to be at least 3 to 4. And when it's 3, it has to be 3 melee minions. And when it's 4, it has to be 4 ranged minions. And why does that matter? Why does that CS lead matter? Because that is exactly how much you need to buy that fancy 75 gold control ward. And a control ward can really mean a lot, mean a big difference in a lane. 3 CS can mean a big difference in your lane just by having a control ward. So if you, anybody watching who's not strictly watching competitive, who plays ranked, know that if you are 10 CS ahead, you can afford to buy that ward. Do not forget about it. Mountain's going to be pathing towards the enemy bottom side blue. And we see a teleport coming out from AHQ by Fizz as Peanut was spotted with level 5. That's very interesting. Okay. So let me talk about why this happened. So remember when I talked about how Peanut did not do a full clear early and therefore was down 1 camp, and therefore is down EXP and experience, or EXP experience and CS and gold. Right? Does this hover over Peanut? It does. Look at Peanut's EXP. This is his EXP bar. Peanut is actually so close to level 6 that he might be able to take like two small raptors and get level 6. Maybe even just 1 small raptor. But why this is really important is because when Mountain spots him out... Hold on. Okay. Peanut's walking, unknowing of the Fizz teleport. Mountain spots him now. He is now in vision of Mountain. And why this is actually really important is because Mountain and Westor were actually headed to dive the bottom lane because Varus has no mobility and neither does Lulu, and they were still level 5. They actually could have turned on to Peanut right here. And what this would do is it would force Peanut's flash. Because Peanut is forced to flash or he will die. Because if Mountain QR and Fizz probably E's over this wall and E's again. So he goes E and then he's about here and then he casts ultimate and he hits it because he got hit by the R. Gragas will die 100%. So Gragas will flash the Sejuani ultimate. And if Gragas does not flash the Sejuani ultimate, then Gragas will be first blood. This was a split-second decision that AHQ is definitely not prepared to make. And I know that they're not prepared to make it because Mountain did not immediately jump on a Peanut. And even right here, actually, like how... Okay. Oh, damn. I need to get the frame where Mountain turns. Okay. So Mountain was right here, and he's aiming in this direction. That's actually about the range of Sejuani ult, but his Q can actually take him here. So if he Qs here, the chances of him hitting this Sejuani ult, because then... Holy shit. Let me draw the angles and let me explain this really carefully. Sejuani is not firing the ultimate from here. Sejuani is firing the ultimate from a vector pointed at Gragas, and then the range forward in which Sejuani's Q takes her. So Sejuani is actually firing her ultimate, not her Q, from here. And then after Sejuani has that, she then is able to fire the ultimate. So the ultimate will be fired here, or it will be fired at a vector that Gragas is able to run to. Now, this is not going to be perfect. But there is... The chances of Sejuani missing this ultimate without Gragas burning Flash are slim to none. Because Sejuani's ultimate actually moves fairly quickly. And here, let me actually check the missile speed on Sejuani's ultimate for you. Because that's actually really important. And then we can see actually how much range Sejuani moves for her Q. So we can just be very, very... So Sejuani has 650 range with her Q. That's actually a little farther than I thought it was. Then her ultimate is 1350 speed. So that is about 75% the speed of an auto attack. A normal auto attack, not like an Anivia auto attack, like a Vayne auto attack. So you're talking about once you're here, it's going to get here because this is about 550, maybe 600 range. If that's the Sejuani Q range, and the Sejuani ult range is about here, it's going to take about 0.1 seconds. Or wait, no. Or it's going to take more than that. 600 range, half the speed. It might take 0.4 to 0.5 seconds to hit Gragas. Which means Gragas cannot move very far. That may be a little bit more, but I'm overestimating just in case I'm a little bit wrong. And I just want to make sure that this vector is very appropriately designed. So this actually could have been a kill, because if the Sejuani ult hits, then the Fizz ultimate hits from max range. And if the Fizz ultimate hits, even if Gragas flashes, he may still die. His only savior is the trying to E this way and then flashing over the wall. But remember that Sejuani can actually you can aim your ultimate in the terms of the Gragas E. So this vector actually turns into a vector that is going to be moved towards this direction. And why it's moved towards this direction, towards the top side of this frame, is because Gragas is incentivized to move towards his tower, whereas he's not incentivized to move towards this tower. So it would be very normal for Gragas to E in this direction, which means Sejuani can ult in this direction and actually catch him in the act of using his E. And if he gets caught right here and the Fizz ult hits, Fizz can flash over this wall and secure the kill on Gragas, and Sejuani can flash over if necessary. And what this would do is it would give gold to Fizz, and enough gold to Fizz to actually even out the lead. Not just even out, but give CS or give Fizz the lead. And it would also take away Gragas' flash. In exchange for quite possibly, in fact, actually almost mandatorily, Fizz's flash. Because Gragas will flash over this wall before he dies. He will flash over that wall before he dies. So Sejuani ult, or Sejuani Q to here, to Sejuani ult, being within this vector zone, into Fizz probably he might be able to just walk forward and use ult on the ulted Gragas, which will be just about here. Gragas will flash over the wall. Fizz will use this wall to flash here. Then Fizz will kill him. And Sejuani will be walking over and will flash here if she needs to flash in order to secure the kill. And I can guarantee you that this would be a fair trade. 2 flashes for 1 flash. Here, look. Trade. This is the trade. So this is SKT. And this is AHQ. So AHQ is minus 1 flash. Minus time. 1 person. So Gragas cannot obviously farm during this time. And that's the time that they're losing. And then SKT minus 2 flash. It might be 1 flash. It might be 1 flash, but it's probably 2 flash. Then both ultimates, but they're not on that long of cooldown, so 2 minutes of inactivity. Yeah, no, this would be a good trade for SKT because not for SKT, for AHQ, because AHQ can specifically get the Fizz more. Fizz will then be greater than Cass, because Fizz will be more fed. I'm not saying Fizz will be able to dual cast, but Fizz will be fed enough. Because AHQ will get the Fizz rolling, and if the Fizz gets rolling, then they can actually go back 2 minutes later to the bot lane, even though Lulu has level 6, because they were actually planning on diving the bot lane before Lulu has level 6, which would have been a great idea, because if Lulu would not be able to sustain herself, because you're actually trying to target Lulu at this point, because Lulu is able to heal Varus, and Varus is able to bury her on top of that, but when Lulu heals herself, Varus cannot barrier her. And if she doesn't hit level 6, then she will actually die, assuming these 2 ultimates hit, and follow-up damage from Kog'Maw is there. So you're looking at 2 very good plays by HQ that both just went haywire. Like they didn't happen. These are things that could have happened, and like this was a mistake. Like it was a mistake not being able to read Sejuani and not farming your jungle completely, because it should have been known that Sejuani was not going to gank aggressively. It should have been known that Sejuani was not going to be aggressive. I don't know what SKT was thinking before the game started, but it should have been known. It should have been known that Gragas was allowed to be aggressive, and it should have been known that if Gragas was not going to be aggressive, that he might as well do a full clear so that he isn't behind on CS. That is the mistake. It's not necessarily a mistake that Lulu and Varus are still level 5, but it is a mistake that Lulu and Varus have absolutely no vision here, because when Fizz was gone, it was prime time for them to get dived. This is the 100% optimal window, and they didn't have a ward at the entrance to their jungle. Right here is where they needed to ward. The only reason that didn't work is because Gragas spotted them, and Gragas could have died, but AHQ chose not to. A very safe approach. And it's and don't think that it's bad that AHQ chose not to kill Gragas. Because in the case that they did miss, because Gragas can E, Gragas E was up. Gragas can E, so if the Sejuani ult misses, then Sejuani has to go 2 minutes, and she's not very helpful. Like, not at all, which means then Casting can roam bot with, no, I don't think Casting could even roam bot. Casting might be able to roam top. Yeah, you could see a Casting gank with a Gragas gank top lane because the Sejuani ult is on cooldown. But you will not see um, an aggression to the bottom lane because Shen has level 6. Also, I wanna comment on the beauty of AHQ's team comp right now, because in the late game, if they have Baron, they have this 1-3-1 setup. Let me draw this. This is like 3 lanes. They have this Shen 3 Fizz setup, where Fizz can actually push aggressively and he can dive because Shen can actually ult the Fizz, and then while Shen and Fizz cause pressure in the bottom lane or in the top lane, assuming Shen and Fizz can switch, it will cause other members of SKT to flock to the bottom lane, and then the 3 can push the other lane, or even rotate top and push top lane. Okay. I also do want to comment, it is a shame that actually, you know what, it's not, it's fine. It's fine. SKT going for a very swift blue steal, rotating down J4, and actually giving it to J4. What this does is it actually allows J4 to shove non-stop. And because he has that, he will actually be able to abuse Shen because he has no fear of running out of mana. Okay. Shen actually going aggressive. Huni can respond there. He actually could have dived. Or wait, I'm not seeing Sejuani. I didn't see Sejuani. I'm a fucking moron. I'm dumb. Yeah, Sejuani was sitting there. I didn't even see that. I knew she was on the top. I knew she was like over here. I didn't see her move up into the top lane. She probably moved up into the top lane because she figured that Peanut would actually try and dive onto Shen, which was a possible permutation, that Peanut would dive onto Shen while J4 and Peanut had buffs so that they were able to control. A lot of damage going on to Albus as he was trying to hold the wave for Kog'Maw. Let's talk about one thing at a time, please. Everything's going a little fast. Let's see. Albus actually is forced to recall here. This is actually really good for SKT. Okay. Why is this good for SKT? So, you see Albus recall. And he's recalling because he has like no HP. And then you have a Kog'Maw sitting in a lane by himself. You have Gragas on the bottom side. You have a Lulu who's able to help Gragas dive the turret. And then you have a Varus. And Varus will actually get to the lane much more quickly than Janna gets to the lane, just because he's already headed there and Janna still has time to recall. Because by the time Janna finishes her recall, Varus is going to be here. By the time Janna is to her second tower, Varus will actually be there. And they will have a very small, I'm talking about like 5 second. Like this is a 5 second window in which they have to perform this dive. And SKT does know Janna's recalling because she was in vision. Okay, hold on. Let's talk about, okay. Faker's playing very forward in the mid lane. Mountain goes ahead and he jumps over the wall. Faker uses his ultimate. Faker gets hit by every ultimate. And Westor plays very safely and goes ahead and waits for the Gragas ult to come out before he goes ahead and he uses his Q. And they get a free first blood. Yeah, that's a free first blood. No flash is burned. Kassadin flash is gone. This is really, really, really good for AHQ. It actually allows Fizz to push the lane. Fizz is now ahead of Kassadin. Kassadin's rod is delayed. Kassadin's going to be missing a lot of CS. That CS will go over to Gragas. That's fine for now. Oh wait, no, Kassadin had Roa. Never mind. Kassadin's Roa is not delayed, but Fizz will be ahead of Kassadin for a little bit. Anyway, a replay on that. So let me just talk about what happened here. Hold on. I need to go back here. Okay. So Gragas is hovering around the enemy red. So what is Faker doing right now? Because the real question is, why the fuck is Faker pushed up so far? Okay, here's the answer. Faker thinks he's safe because Peanut is in the red side jungle. And he also has a lot of wards here. What's wrong here is Faker is not looking at the map for about 3 seconds. And during these 3 seconds is when Sejuani goes ahead and she walks up. And this is in vision. This is not like Faker did not see this, or well, could not have seen this coming. Faker had vision here. And he goes ahead and he stays trying to pressure Fizz. So when this happens, let's go ahead and go to the replay now. When this happens, Faker had no idea. He was actually pushed up this far. Here's where Faker could be. Here's where Faker should be. And here's where Faker would be if he was safe. This is safe. This is normal. This is aggressive. This is extremely aggressive. This is trying to force enemy to lose XP plus CS. So this is 4 different stages of the lane. And Faker's in the most aggressive one. He did not see Sejuani coming, even though she passed through a ward, and he was already here by the time she goes ahead and she joins the lane. He's able to ult away once, but then he goes ahead and he flashes away. He gets permafrosted. Peanut's coming to try and save him. Peanut is not going to be able to do anything because he got double ulted. And he did not have Roa yet, and nor were there any stacks in the Roa, so it wasn't stacking. So Faker, very big mistake. Honestly, something that I'd never expect Faker to do. Because when I think Faker, I think, oh wow, he's clean. He doesn't play too aggressive. He usually stays within his boundaries, which is why he usually doesn't have a lot of deaths unless he's getting really focused and dived. But very, very interesting. I also want to take a second to note, Varus went ahead and he rushed Wit's End, which is really interesting, but also valid because of all the magic damage coming out from the enemy team. You're talking about a lot of magic damage. And what this does is it actually, when Varus is burning down the tanks, right? When Varus is auto attacking these two, he's stealing MR. He's making himself more tanky. And he's also making it easier for Gragas and Cass to kill them. Because when he steals MR, they're going to be lower MR, and therefore these guys are going to do more damage. And that's just a fact, but it's a very interesting build path. Like he's killing so many birds with the same stone. Like not just one, not just two. He's killing like 4 birds with the same stone. He's getting DPS. He's getting tankiness. He's anti-tank. And he's also, wait, what else did I say? Tank, anti-tank, DPS. No, that's it. It's 3 birds with unstone. Anyway, let's go back to this other play. So I want to talk about this matchup now, because now Fizz is level 9, and normally, Kassadin will be able to abuse Fizz. But let's take a look at the state of the game. Now that Fizz has Merc Treads and a little bit of health, Faker isn't scaled up enough to actually be really threatening. Not only is Faker not scaled enough to be really threatening, but Fizz is an engage champion who can engage very easily, and he can actually force the engage while Shen ult is up. And if he forces the engage while Shen ult is up, he will win the 1v1 100% of the time. And this is especially good because Fizz already got first blood, which allowed him to get it actually allowed him to get that extra ruby crystal. So really he has nothing to fear right now. He's absolutely nothing. So he can engage as much as possible, as much as he wants, and Faker will actually start to lose CS. And now that Fizz is level 9, his E is level 5. So we're talking about how that his E is now low enough cooldown that maybe if he wants to use E aggressively, that Sejuani will stand near mid, and Sejuani's standing near mid, and he plays aggressive. Everything's in play in order for him to want to play aggressive, and he goes ahead and he uses that corrupting potion. And speaking of the corrupting potion, Kassadin never actually bought his. Really interesting, probably because he didn't have enough gold. But he's using the corrupting potion so he can heal a lot, so he can keep going in and keep abusing the fact that Faker can't take these fights because Faker has no flash. And with Faker having no flash and Westor having flash and there being a Shen ultimate and there being a constant fear of Sejuani being around, which Faker should have known that Sejuani was somewhere near, just because she probably passed through that ward right there, or if she didn't, she passed through that one. Actually, there's a SKT is amazing aggressive vision right now. So does AHQ actually. They have vision here, here, and here. They have vision of everything. Mountain goes ahead and passes over a pink ward. Goes ahead and he's clearing another camp. Peanut's going to go ahead into the enemy tri-bush. He's realized there's going to be a pink ward. He's going to go ahead and take that pink ward out. Mountain's probably going to come over and say hi, but not really much else. Actually, Mountain's going to go ahead and take that ward away. So it's 12 minutes into the game. So what's going on? Well, Kassadin is no longer in charge of his lane, and will only be in charge after level 11. Kassadin will feel more comfortable. At level 11, because his ultimate will be on a shorter cooldown. Shorter CD. So at this point he'll be able to go in and then get out, and then he won't be as afraid of Fizz just taking him down before his ultimate comes back off cooldown, because right now it's about, what, 6 seconds, and then it will be 4, which will be much different than when it's 2. So Castim will be able to farm effectively and participate in the lane, participate in trading easily. But that's only after he hits level 11, so we're still two levels away from that. So yeah, Sejuani goes ahead and she hovers mid lane as Westor goes ahead and uses his E aggressively. This is really good because it allows Fizz to just keep on power farming. So you see Fizz is actually, like, he's not down, he's only down 9 CS, which is amazing for that matchup. Mountain goes ahead and tries to steal enemy blue. Peanut's just playing very patiently. Peanut goes ahead and he smites badly there. Let's go ahead and look at that again. Peanut must overestimate his damage by about 100. Let me go ahead and see what ability Peanut's maxing. Peanut went ahead and he maxed Q, which is something that a lot of Gragas's do. It's not really something that I do. So he definitely overestimated the damage on his W, which is only about 10% maximum health, which is a decent amount against monsters, but it isn't a lot. Which it increases a lot on monsters. So wait, what the fuck? Where was I? I was here. Okay. So one more time. I don't think he actually exploded his Q at the same time that he smited, which gave Mountain an opportunity to smite while it was at 100 health. So then maybe that was just a mechanical error on Peanut's part. At least it didn't look like it exploded. It looked like it was still there. Faker gonna go ahead and push out the mid lane. Westor is coming back from a back. Faker's gonna go ahead and head top lane. Starts heading top lane, realizes that it's probably pointless, goes ahead and sets up for a recall. Peanut showing his face in bottom lane. He wants Bang and Wolf to feel comfortable, and he wants to make sure that really they want a lead on this Varus right now, because Kog'Maw is almost at the point where he can outdamage Varus already. Like, we're already at the point in the game where Varus has to at least fear Kog'Maw a little bit. And I know Kog'Maw's sitting on a lot of gold right now. Kog'Maw has not left lane in a while. So once Kog'Maw gets that item, he's going to be much more comfortable and much scarier. Fizz going to head and taking the blue buff. Mountain went ahead and stole the enemy red buff while Fizz was taking blue buff. Now this is really smart because in the game you can actually see when the enemy's buffs are spawning. And when you're sitting here in the perspective of Peanut, he's saying, I do not need to immediately be in my red buff because the enemy blue buff is spawning, and it's likely that both Sejuani and Fizz are going to be at the enemy blue buff, where in fact Sejuani came to steal the red buff and actually counter jungle Krugs as well, while Westor went ahead and he soloed his blue buff, which he can do and still return to lane because he has Corrupting Potion. Peanut goes ahead and he finds Mountain, but Mountain's going to get a lot of damage onto him, and Mountain's probably just going to Q over the wall here. There comes the Shen ult. Fizz ult follow up. Mountain's going to get taken down. Fizz goes ahead and picks up a kill. And it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. We're going to watch that again. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Let's go. Let's go back. Let's look at everybody's position when this happens. So Fizz is in the jungle and immediately starts pathing around towards towards Mountain. Shen is just waiting for for his ultimate to be useful. And Fizz goes ahead and he gets a free long-range ultimate on the Huni. So you saw Huni actually got melted by that Fizz ultimate while Sejuani was taken down. And let's talk about what this means. So Fizz is going to return to the lane and get a push. Shen is going to return to the lane and get a push. And actually, if Shen gets the push here, actually, wow, that's really interesting. Shen and Westdoor, or Ziv and Westdoor can actually both move top lane and get top lane pressure. That won't work. It'll actually just force one of these teleports, because I'm assuming that their Faker's gonna back here. Otherwise, Ziv is going to push top lane, and Huni might actually have to teleport back to top lane, or he'll walk back to top lane and lose the CS and accept that he lost CS. Wester is going to go ahead and go to mid, and he's going to go ahead and push mid out, as mid is already setting up a slow push, as we can see on the map. I think what's really interesting about this game is that we're at the 15-minute mark, and there has been no pressure on Dragon and no pressure on Rift Herald, whereas you would actually expect a little bit of pressure on Dragon as soon as Varus finished Wit's End and Kassadin was a level 6, because they are, and while Huni had his teleport, because remember, Huni teleported back to top lane early. But because it's a, I think he probably has the reduced cooldown. I would expect that he has the reduced cooldown, so it's a 4-minute cooldown. 4 minutes later, this is probably before Fizz gets his first kill, SKT have the ability to go ahead and force Dragon. And they actually chose to not do that, probably because it was a risky play that, well, it's not that risky of a play. Like, they do win it. But it does force AHQ to respond, which could lead to a messy fight. But it is in the favor of SKT. And this would give them more objective pressure, which arguably is actually really high priority for their team comp, because they're looking to win before the 30-minute mark. Jarvan does decide to TP towards the top lane. Just getting a replay. Westdoor did flash, so he could make sure that he could get the Fizz ult. Probably not necessary, but... Actually, no, it was probably necessary. Let me think. This would have taken 2 seconds. They spread apart 2 seconds later. They probably wouldn't have spread apart. I don't think Fizz needed to flash in order to secure a kill, but Fizz might have needed to flash. No, Jarvan has flash, which means Jarvan may not have died if Fizz didn't flash ult. So that was correct. Okay. Mountain showing a lot of aggression in the bot lane. I wouldn't. All right, this is really odd to me because I know Kog'Maw's sitting on a pot of gold. Um, because think about the difference between the ADCs right now. Kog'Maw spent 800 plus 1,000. So he has 1,800 gold worth of items on top of his starting items. Whereas Varus has a Wit's End, which is 2,400 plus or something. It might be cheaper than that. I never even think about that item unless it's a very, very specific case. But we know that Kog'Maw has the same amount of gold as Varus because of the CS, and no turrets have been taken, which means that Kog'Maw is actually sitting on at least 600 gold, but probably a lot more than 600 gold because he's been sitting on these same items for about 5 minutes. Meaning, during that 5 minutes, he probably could have gotten 60 farm, or well, it's been he could have gotten at least 50 farm. It could be more than that, 50 plus farm. And 50 plus farm is 10, 20 times. It could be all the way up. It could be between 600 to 2,000 gold. So I don't know for sure, but I could look back and really check. I could just find Kog'Maw's back. In fact, let me go ahead and do that. When's the last time? We're at 2247. Kog'Maw 4 minutes ago. Still has the same items. Okay. Is it here? He's not in lane yet, I don't think. Oh no, he's in lane. That's 5 minutes ago. This is 6 minutes ago, and Kog'Maw just got to lane. So it's been 6 minutes. So Kog'Maw's gotten 90 CS. So he is definitely holding on to about 1,800 gold. So that we know for sure. So it's very weird for me to think that Sejuani's going to show pressure here. Because they're not going to do anything with this pressure. They're just going to push into the turret. They're not going to dive. They don't really have the damage on Kog'Maw yet. Kog'Maw does get a decent amount of damage with levels, but the only reason that they'd want to do anything here is if Fizz was going to roam down. But Fizz isn't going to roam down because Fizz is currently getting pushed in by Kassadin, and Kassadin can match Fizz's teleport. And there's no Shen ult. So there's no reason for the pressure. She's just showing up because she can. Fizz go ahead and uses his E because he can get the pressure from Sejuani and feel safe. Mountain gonna go ahead and walk toward the top side jungle, catch out Peanut. Lots of damage going on to Peanut. That looks like a max range ultimate. Westdoor is going to be looking to catch up here. A second stun. How many stuns came out from Sejuani there? That was really interesting. Let's look at this again. So Sejuani's walking around with Fizz, and now this is a lane where you have pressure because Fizz recently backed. He's got Sheen, he's got Proto Belt, he's got a Dark Seal, so he's definitely looking for blood. He's got his ultimate, and he has Thunder Lords. He doesn't have Flash, but he's definitely ready to engage. So Mountain goes in and goes in, knock up, 1, 2, Flash gets the stun, breaks the stun, the Fizz ult comes down, gets a second stun, and then Fizz secures the kill. And then they go ahead and they move on to Faker. Faker digresses towards the red buff. No harm done to Faker. So that was a really good play. I'm not really sure why Peanut was walking there. So let's look at it in the perspective of Peanut. Peanut's going to show up towards mid lane. Gets engaged on. Can't run he can't run this direction. Because if he runs this direction, Westor is just going to engage on him, and then Kassadin is forced to join the 2v2. But because Kassadin is down, or well, actually... No. They lose the 2v2. Kassadin, Gragas lose this 2v2, and it's very easily apparent if you look at the items. Now, I just want you to look at, specifically, there's a huge CS. Now, normally it's very hard to gauge how powerful a CS lead in the jungle position is. But there is a very strong CS lead for Sejuani, and there's also one assist lead. So you're talking about maybe a couple hundred gold. But let's go ahead and compare the items. So that's even. And then this is 800 gold on top of the boots. So you see a plus 800 for Gragas. Then this is 1,000. So you see a plus 200 in favor of Sejuani. And then you see an 800, which is plus 1,000, minus 600, or minus 400. So you're looking at about a 600 gold lead for Sejuani, or at least in spent gold. And that's really the gold that matters. We're not talking about ghost gold right now, so, or pocket gold. And then you see that Fizz is actually at a small power spike right now because he has the Sheen, whereas Kassadin does not have a Sheen, and that will actually severely affect the DPS of Kassadin, as Sheen not just gives you the stats that Sheen gives, or the stats that whatever Sheen item you buy gives, but gives you however many times you can proc it. And if it gives you 100 damage every time you proc it, and you proc it 4 times in a fight, you're talking about 400 damage. Right now, Fizz has probably 90 AD or something. It's going to be 75% of his AD plus something. And if he procs it like 3 times in a fight, he's going to get at least 3. And he's not going to get 300. He might get 250 damage off of it, right? So you're definitely looking at a very strong lead for this 2v2 situation. So I'm not really sure why Peanut chose to walk towards Sejuani. It seems very mindless too. Like he walks up and he scans the bush to see if they have any wards, and then he throws a Q, and then he doesn't expect them to engage on him at all. Another thought is that Peanut actually doesn't have flash, which makes this even more dangerous. Because Sejuani does have flash, which means Sejuani is able to engage fights that she normally wouldn't be able to engage. So Peanut definitely thinks he's safe, but doesn't understand that Sejuani wants to burn flash. I think that's what he was expecting. So he was not expecting the Sejuani flash, and that led to an even further lead being put on the Fizz. It'll actually, they said that gold towards Sejuani. I'm not sure. Maybe it was the red buff that took it. But that gold probably should have gone to Fizz. Anyway, so let's wait till the 20-minute mark. We'll do a state of the game at the 20-minute mark. We don't need to see that again. Okay. SKT's hovering around this dragon. Scuttle Crab just spawned. SKT go ahead and they give up the Scuttle Crab, which means they're probably giving up the dragon as well. Mountain goes ahead and burns Smite, but he has a second Smite, so he's just got to wait that 15 seconds. SKT really can't contest this dragon unless they get a catch. Peanut goes ahead and he goes for an engage on Mountain. Faker goes ahead and he slaps Mountain, but it doesn't do any damage. Mountain goes ahead and throws out the Sejuani ultimate. And SKT go ahead and they start with Baron. What really confuses me is that Sejuani does not need to ult here. Okay? Sejuani is not concerned. Actually, Sejuani, she's either pathing this way towards her tower, or she just passes this way into her jungle. I'm assuming that she's pathing towards her tower, because she's playing very defensively. But there's no reason for her to ult there. And a good notion of why there was no reason for her to ult there was when here, let's look at it. Look at the damage that Kassadin did. Sejuani should not be afraid. Like, this is AHQ's dragon. If it comes to a 4v4, AHQ wins. Right? That should be just noted. But instead, Sejuani goes ahead and throws the ultimate. SKT try to take the dragon, but I think SKT knows that it's very high. It's very risky to take that dragon, because they could get it, given the DPS that they have, but it's most likely that Janna Kog'Maw would roam up, Fizz would roam down, and Sejuani would jump in, and they would just do a full engage, and they'd be able to run over SKT, and then that would be game, because you'd see a much larger gold lead. Because right now the gold lead isn't that much. It's all on Fizz, pretty much. A little bit's on Sejuani, but there's a good amount on Fizz, or that extra gold really, because Fizz is down CS, almost equivalent to the point where he's about even with Kassadin in gold. It's not. I think he might be slightly ahead, but it's not by more than like 200 gold. Just because Kassadin has a 20 CS lead. But that doesn't really matter because Fizz's hit power spikes that Kassadin will not hit until later in the game, because Kassadin's still waiting on his Roa, which is going to be several minutes. And he's going to be waiting on Lichbane, and maybe once he gets Lichbane, Kassadin will be scary. We are at the 20-minute mark, so I do want to talk about the state of the game. The state of the game is really interesting because there's no first blood tower. Everybody is extremely hard to kill. Fizz is hard to kill. Sejuani's hard to kill. Shen's hard to kill, and you're definitely not killing that Kog'Maw, because you really don't have any assassin potential except maybe on the Jarvan. Jarvan's really got the most like burst damage coming down right now just because of his current build. And even then, you have a Shen shield and a Janna shield on top of him. And then when you go ahead and you look at the side of SKT, Jarvan's pretty hard to catch out, especially when he has flash. Peanut has flash, and he's building pretty tanky. And he's actually building a lot of magic resist, and that's what SKT will do a lot of, since they have a lot of magic damage. And then Faker's really hard to kill, especially since he has flash, just because it's Kassadin, and it's really difficult to dive this bottom lane because they have barrier, heal, Lulu, R, and E, and polymorph. So there's no one really for AHQ to target specifically. AHQ just has to play out the lead until their Kog'Maw strong enough. So AHQ is perfectly fine. With farming passively. Because as long as this Kog'Maw hits 2 items, they pretty much win the game. That's just it. They win. Because you're at like this late mid game point where SKT has to do something or else they will not win, and AHQ can just passively win. This is passively winning. Um, and it's winning because they're not giving SKT any ability to play aggressive. And they're doing this because now the Fizz is ahead enough to the point where he can actually pressure Kassadin just because there's a Shen shield on the table. So what can SKT do? Like what can SKT do to win this game? That's the big question. Honestly, J4 pushes top. J4 roams bot, and he walks there. And he preferably walks through the lane just because they either have to clear out vision using pink wards, which they do have 2 pink wards, and a pink ward even here, like a third control ward, just so maybe they can use this red plant, as they can walk here and use the red plant to get into this lane when Kog'Maw and Janna are pushing, because Kog'Maw and Janna can push now, because Bang doesn't need to push, and he actually prefers to stay under tower, because if he pushes the lane, then he's afraid of Westor actually teleporting onto him or just roaming in. He's also afraid of Mountain. So Jarvan goes bot. Kassadin will actually take a different path to bot, or he'll stay in mid and he'll keep Fizz from TPing in the bot lane. Actually, that's actually better. Kassadin pushes mid so that Fizz is unable to roam bot. As long as Kassadin is mid, Fizz is not able to teleport and he's not able to roam bot, or else he risks losing mid tower, which can actually give SKT a lot of tempo, just by making the map a lot bigger. Because right now, like, this is what the map looks like. As far as neutral zone, this is the neutral zone of the map. Actually, it's thinner than that because I'm not drawing in tower range. It's really like no bigger than the river. That's the neutral zone. But the neutral zone would turn into that. I need to not press down so hard with my pen. Would turn into that if SKT got mid tower. And they would actually gain a lot of tempo off of that, and they could use vision to try and snowball a little bit of a lead on one champion. So while Kassadin and Fizz are mid, J4 roams bot, and he's able to him and J4 can jump over the wall with Gragas, and this is preferably while Sejuani is on the top side of the map. And if you have any vision at all, on the top side of the map, seeing Sejuani ever, even seeing her pass through, let's say here, if you had a ward here, or if you had a ward here, or if you had a ward here. And any 3 of those wards would tell you whether or not it was safe to make this bottom lane gank with J4 and Gragas diving onto Kog'Maw and Janna, right? Because if Sejuani is moving upwards towards her blue side jungle, then you'll see her. Then she'll be on the top side of the map, and you'll be ready for this 4v2 in the bottom lane. If you see Sejuani in the top side jungle already, then you can go ahead and you can perform the gank. Sejuani may also walk through mid lane, as she's been doing that before, because she keeps hovering the Fizz, and whenever you see that happen, you'll actually see Sejuani move towards the top side, and that will give you another point in which you're able to do this gank. And why is this the only way SKT can win is because it's the only way that they don't give up any kind of priority and they still win. Because remember, Huni is teleport right now. So if Huni is teleport right now, he can actually make this play bottom lane and then teleport top. And he's not very concerned with Shen pushing the lane, because when Shen actually pushes the lane after Huni pushes the lane first, because remember I said Huni is going to push the lane and then back, and then go back. Shen's going to push the lane as fast as he does. He does have Sunfire Cape and Tiamat, so it's going to be a little bit faster than normal Shen. But he's not going to be able to push this tower very fast, just because Shen's base attack damage is not incredibly high, and he only has a Tiamat. He has no attack speed, unless he has attack speed in runes, or maybe his AD in runes. I'm not quite sure. I could go check at some point, but it's really not that important what he has. It's just important that he doesn't have a lot of pressure on the tower. And if they have enough control wards in this area, they can use the red plant to jump over while they're pushed. And even if they're not pushed, even if they were under tower, J4 plus Gragas plus Lulu plus Varus is perfectly fine diving a Kog'Maw Janna. Janna's ultimate will be really annoying. It'll be really fucking annoying. Honestly, you might even want to target her first. Like, knock her up and just one-hit her. And if you do that, then you don't have to worry about her ultimate. Yeah. Gragas ult her into the team, and then just one-hit her, and then move on towards Kog'Maw. That would be the plan of action. And if SKT can do this, if that play is successful, if X succeeds, then SKT get first blood tower, dragon, and there's no longer Rift Herald. They're not losing Rift Herald, and they can't lose Baron because Kog'Maw's not at the Baron. And then they can rotate Varus to top, have J4 split bot, and try and rotate in between mid and top to get tower pressure. And how you do this is as J4 pushes bots. So say you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if J4 is pushing on a turret that's here, instead of here, because remember we have turrets like this. So if J4 is pushing on this turret, and you're rotating in between these two turrets, then Shen, because J4 has priority right now, because now J4 is going for Ravenous Hydra, and when J4 is Ravenous Hydra, he will have priority in that lane. He'll be able to push it, and Shen isn't going to be able to stop him. And making this play successful in bot lane will actually give him enough gold for that. Someone will have to go bot to help Shen. And as you help Shen, there's going to be a map imbalance. And what this means is there's going to be 2 people in this bot sign. And then there's going to be 4 people from SKT in this other area. So there's only going to be 3 people from AHQ, right? Right. So then SKT could try and snowball a win. But if SKT don't do that, and SKT don't magically get some kind of kill with Kassadin, they're just going to passively lose. Because late game SKT right now does not look good versus enemy. Mountain goes ahead and gets spotted as AHQ set up a bot lane dive. Huh? He doesn't... Is he not winning this? When he has Ravenous Hydra, I think he wins that. But right now, he does not. That's for damn sure. Also at level 16, J4 will get lots of extra damage just because he'll have pressure with he'll have Cataclysm pressure. Because when you build all this damage, Cataclysm does a lot. Hold on. What's going on? Okay, Mountain's heading towards the bot side. Wolf got poked down really heavily in lane. Mountain does not even flinch. Hold on. Look at this. Does not even flinch. Throws his ultimate. There's the Shen ultimate to secure Bang. Bang could get caught out here. He's going to be hit by the Permafrost. Permafrost isn't going to get procced. They go ahead and they back off because of the Kassadin teleport. Shen goes ahead and teleports top. Huni's going to get a little bit of extra damage on the tower. Whoa, Shen. Oh, Kassadin stops Shen teleport. That's really interesting. And then First Blood Tower in the bot lane is traded for top tower in the top, or for SKT's first tower in the top lane. Let's see, Westor is gonna get caught out a little bit. Has to burn flash so that he doesn't get hit by the Gragas cask. Dragon's gonna go over to AHQ, and that's free. That's not really contestable. I mean, Peanut can try and smite, but he's got there a little late. Mountain flashes out of the pit. He didn't have any mana, and it's difficult to queue over people since your queue gets stopped by enemy champions. So Peanut's going to take this time. He's going to go ahead and he's going to say, all right, we got to get some extra stuff. Let's push mid lane. Let's get pressure in mid. We force Fizz to back. Then we counter jungle the enemy. We have top lane push, so we're going to put bot lane and top lane, make sure they're safe. Then we're going to have pressure on Baron. Then there's going to be no dragon, so there's no reason to actually have J4 really split down there, except to just put pressure on the first tower, the outer tower. So J4 will just push and then roam towards the mid lane and then go back down and push and then go towards the mid lane, and he's just going to do that over and over and over again. SKT go ahead and they send bot lane mid, which is actually really interesting. So they're actually setting up a 1-3-1 early. So SKT opt for 1-3-1. Let's talk about why is this bad? So I talked about earlier I talked about earlier how SKT's team comp was kind of or not SKT, AHQ's team comp was kind of beautiful in the sense that they can set up this 1-3-1, this really interesting 1-3-1, where here, hold on, let me do this better. So say you're fighting all the inner turrets, just to make things a little bit simpler. So Fizz is here, and then you have the 3 here, and then you have Shen here. So Shen's actually going to try and push into the top lane, but Shen might not be able to push against, actually cannot push against Huni. Shen's not going to be able to push against Huni because Huni's got a bucket load of wave clear because he's just going to one-shot all the minions. And Fizz is going to be going up against the Kassadin. So you're going to see J4 in the top lane, and Fizz goes against the Kassadin. And then you see the 3 mid lane. Why is this bad for SKT? And SKT, remember, SKT chose this when they opted to send their bot lane mid. Because if their bot lane returns mid here, and that's what they plan on doing, it's going to be detrimental to them. Fizz can dive Kassadin, get Shen ulted, so Shen moves down. Then 3 are going to push here, and then you have someone has to respond to here. And because Fizz is greater than Kassadin right now, because look, they're almost even in CS now. And they both have 2 items, but let's see. Now Fizz definitely wins, because he has a lot of damage. So Fizz is greater than Cass, and because of that fact, they need to send more than one person to help Kassadin in order to stop Fizz from forcing Cass out of lane. And if Cass backs, then they get this turret for free. So then bot lane turret disappears. So then SKT will be at the point where they have to protect these 2 towers, and then there's a 3rd tower, their inner tower in the bot lane, and the same thing can happen again. Fizz can go bot lane, except it'll be a faster rotation from SKT. Except the next time that this happens, which is which is at the next turret, Fizz will then dive this turret on the Kassadin, get Shen ulted, and send people bottom lane. And then the Kog'Maw, the Sejuani, and the Janna will push in either top lane or mid lane. And then one of these towers will go away. And then you'll see a systematic destruction overpowering. Due to 1-3-1 dominance. And this gets worse if AHQ get Baron. Dominance. Yeah. So if AHQ get Baron, they win the game. Anyway, Faker goes ahead and catches out Mountain a little bit. A little bit damage goes on the Mountain. Faker's going to actually continue onto Mountain. That's his 3rd ult onto Mountain. Mountain's actually going to get taken down. No, Janna flash heal, ultimate. Gragas ult does not hit Mountain. Small Fizz ult goes on to Kassadin. Peanut's going to go ahead and try to pick up Westdoor. Peanut's out of mana. Kog'Maw gets to the fight, starts getting damage onto Wolf, and SKT disengage. So one more time, actually, we might see a replay of this. Let's go ahead and wait for the replay, because I'm sure it will be more interesting. Yeah, Faker has to back now. Fizz just returns to the lane and pushes. And then Kog'Maw and Janna can push in on the mid tower. And remember that Kog'Maw actually gets extra range from his W. And this actually expands to 710, or I think it's 710. Do not quote me. I will look this up later. But a lot of ADCs actually end up going to 710 range, including Jinx. There's another one. There's another ADC that does this. Why, I don't know why I can't remember it. I know Tristana's 686 at max level, and Caitlyn's 650, and Twitch is 800. I'm pretty sure there's another ADC that's 710. But Kog'Maw, with that extra range, is able to push down turrets a lot easier. And in this 2v2 setup, like in the 2v2 in the mid lane, or in, well, the 3v3 lane, assuming Sejuani and Gragas are hovering at all times, Kog'Maw will naturally push now that he has 2 items. And Kog'Maw will naturally get the tower if SKT doesn't do anything. So at this point, at the 24-minute mark, SKT has about 3 minutes to be proactive, or they lose. And then after that point, their only hope of winning is waiting until about the 35 to 40-minute mark, and hoping that AHQ make a fatal mistake. Faker goes ahead and he gets caught out. He has no mana. He uses W, and he probably could have ulted after he W'd, but he was very afraid, and he went ahead and he used Flash to go ahead and get out. So that's Flash down on Faker, which is going to be really bad since SKT really wants to make a proactive play. And remember, they did just make a proactive play in the bottom lane, but it didn't work out for them because Janna Flash healed Mountain, and they couldn't kill Mountain, and therefore they couldn't do anything else. And also during that play, I would like to mention that Peanut had no mana, Faker had no mana, and with those two having no mana, the rest of the team's kind of useless. Well, I mean, J4 is pretty useful, but Varus and Lulu by themselves cannot do that much. We never got a replay of that bottom lane play. Unlucky. It's not really that important. SKT tried to make a proactive play. They failed. And they failed because, I mean, they tried to make a proactive play on a Mountain, who was called out. Don't get me wrong, Mountain was called out, but they didn't really do it the best way they could. And it was also extremely difficult to kill Mountain in the first place. Mountain's so fucking tanky. He's going to have Gargoyle, Stoneplate, and then he's going to be unkillable. Because, like, they don't really have much max health damage. I mean, there's Jarvan's passive, and then there's Peanut's W, and then there's Varus's W, which is decent. But it's, like, it's going to do that damage in magic damage, which is going to be reduced very heavily. Peanut's in between Mountain and all this right now. Peanut goes ahead and he sees. Now that... Okay. That was really interesting. Wow, that Kog'Maw is strong. So let's see how that happened. This was really funny. This was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen on a world stage. Mountain had already positioned himself at the enemy Wraith Wall because they're looking for a dive. Peanut was just in the mid lane and moves towards the top side. And then Mountain chooses to engage as soon as he sees Peanut is too far away to help his team. Anyway, Wolf gets dived on, killed immediately. Bang even gets a lot of damage taken to him. And Peanut would have died if he didn't get if that explosive cast did not hit Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw back to full health from Ginsu's and Ardent Sensor, and AHQ is going to be plowing down the mid lane. The Shen'el was used to get more pressure, and we do see that Jarvan's going to be getting damage on the top tower, and he might even get tier 2 top tower, because now Shen is teleporting into the Fizz. Oh wait, Shen never ulted in the mid lane. Shen was just there. So they actually, AHQ made the mistake of leaving Jarvan top lane by himself, which is really weird, but it was like a risk. It was a risk factor. Let's send Shen mid and hope that SKT doesn't predict our play, and if they don't, then it will be highly beneficial. Then Shen's still able to ult Fizz in the bottom lane, so that Fizz is still able to win this 1v1, and if Fizz can win the 1v1, then they can win mid lane and bot lane while they lose top lane. So this was very well thought out. By AHQ. One turret goes down for SKT, and lots of farm is going to be on J4. J4 gonna go ahead and steal the blue buff. Try to get everything they can. There's gonna be a second Mountain Drake coming up. So at this point, it's a 3,500 gold lead. So at this point, I'd have to argue that the game is near impossible to win for SKT. So let me talk about what SKT need to do to win if they're gonna win. So SKT went ahead, or SKT don't really need to contest this dragon, because if they contest the dragon, they risk burning a lot of summoner spells that they really want. So they'd burn Lulu's Flash, or they could burn Lulu's Flash, which is coming up. They could burn Varus's Flash. They could burn Gragas or Huni's Flash, just trying to win the fight. But they shouldn't look for a fight here. No, they should give this up. There's no reason for SKT to be here. Are they really looking for a team fight? Bang's like in a corner. Why? Okay. Okay, well now the game's really over, but let me tell you how SKT could have won. SKT ignores this dragon. They ignore it completely. It's not theirs. It's not their dragon. It just isn't. SKT then has to go ahead and move to this Baron. And so how does AHQ approach the Baron? AHQ approaches the Baron by sending Kassadin to push the mid lane. They send Shen to push the bottom lane. And then they rotate Kassadin towards the Baron. And they have 4 at Baron with a Shen ult, right? Then SKT can contest the Baron. SKT is going to lose the fight, right? But if SKT steal Baron, which is possible, they can delay the game. Is delaying the game any better than losing? Not really. It's actually pretty piss poor, because you're delaying the game against a Kog'Maw Fizz, and Sejuani. So but it does allow for the game to be longer, and therefore the possibility possibility of AHQ making mistakes. Because if the game goes on for longer and SKT get that 1,500 gold to close the gold gap a little bit, honestly, even if they all die, they deny the Baron, and they can stall out this game for a long time, or at least they can do their best at stalling out the game. They are going to lose this top tower, they're going to lose that top tower, and they're going to lose that mid tower eventually. They're going to lose this one. They can try and keep those two. So they're going to lose that 750 gold, but they're going to get 1,500 gold from Baron. And with that Baron, if they get 1 or 2 kills, they're going to get, 300 to 900 more gold. Because if they kill Fizz, like he's on a kill streak, you get 500 gold for the shutdown. Like they're gonna get a little bit of gold. And with the gold gap closed, it's going to be much more difficult for AHQ to finish the game. And it's not going to be closed completely, but it's just going to be closed by, like a 1,000 or 2. And even though AHQ is gonna have 2 stone dragons, they're not gonna have any fire dragons or wind dragons, that will make their rotations very, very clean and fast. At that point, AHQ will make a very simple 1-3-1, in which SKT is actually forced to respond with a 1-3-1. But if anybody on SKT lives with Baron, it actually relieves the pressure of the 1-3-1. Because all they have to do is steal the Baron and live. If they steal the Baron and live, they can stall out the game. And if AHQ makes mistakes, then they can win. However, as for right now, especially after this fight, which SKT shouldn't have taken, by the way, like there was no reason ever to fight for the mountain drag. Just never. Anyway, we'll just watch this fight. Jarvan did get a lot of damage out, but I mean, you can't kill the Kog'Maw, and Kog'Maw just melts everything and he stays at full health. Yep. Okay. Let's speed this up. You know, they don't even go to fucking dragon, they just take the Baron. Then they go ahead and they get the dragon, then they force bottom lane. That's not surprising. Bottom lane is the easiest lane to siege. They get the inhibitor, then they're going to move to the other lane. Shen got 2 top towers in the meantime. AHQ's taking this really slowly. Oh. Mountain goes for a catch onto J4. Faker teleports in. Doesn't really even get any damage down onto West Door. Faker goes in and gets ulted. Huni gets taken down. Mountain's going to be taking damage, but the Kog'Maw is coming up in the back line. Baron buff is not there, but it is 5v4. They don't... Oh, here's a replay. We don't really need the replay. AHQ take this very slowly. I think AHQ are just waiting for the Baron just because it makes the game a lot easier. Or the Fire Dragon. Doesn't really matter. Both of them force SKT to fight. Not the Fire Dragon, the Elder Dragon. Both of them force SKT to fight, or else they lose the game. And anything that forces a fight pretty much wins the game. And SKT can't really contest the Fire Dragon, or not the Fire Dragon, the Elder Dragon, because they can't get behind it, whereas they at least can be behind the Baron. So they can contest the Baron, but they can't really contest the Elder Dragon. Anyway, that just leads to the end of the game. So how did SKT lose? Well, draft for early aggression. Picks. Did not play proactively. They made very few proactive plays, and they needed to play proactively for a lot of the game. Early catches. And bad jungle pathing. As Peanut was behind since the beginning just because he didn't go for a full clear. And I can't support Varus. They knew they had Kog'Maw. This Varus was picked after Kog'Maw. They knew they had Kog'Maw, and they went ahead and they picked Varus and said, we're gonna play for that mid game, and we're gonna win in that mid game. And they didn't win the mid game. In fact, they didn't even win in the early game, and they didn't get any kind of special leads. The only lead they had was Faker being a good Kassadin in the mid lane, except for the one time he got caught because he wasn't looking at the map for 3 seconds. So rather than asking how did SKT lose, let's ask how did AHQ win. So they draft an assassin, and a protect the Kog'Maw comp. And then played extremely passively. Played Farmville, basically. Until 20 minutes. And then outscaled. Now, if SKT drafted differently, like maybe if this Varus was like I hate to say like Jinx, because I mean, Jinx, don't get me wrong, Jinx is not the worst ADC. But an ADC that is longer range and stronger than Varus, and one that can abuse Kog'Maw a lot more. This maybe this outscaled thing would be different. Like if they had Jinx, like their late game would be a little similar. Jinx with the rockets would have the range, so she would be able to play. She wouldn't be able to be so far outranged by Kog'Maw. But Jinx would not really be the best pick because Jinx can be jumped on by Fizz very easily. And in that case, I mean, they could probably use a different mid laner. So really, SKT's drafting this game, I can't really support, or at least I can't support it because it's not that it's a bad draft. It's not a bad draft. It's a bad draft against this team. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like or comment or whatever the hell you want to do. But that's my take on how SKT got taken down in the group stages, and I'm gonna be doing some more interesting games soon. So thanks for watching.